today's date is the 25th. Today's date is the 25th of July, 2025, and it's the 26th of July, 2025. Thank you, Ozzy. Thank you, Ozzy, for all the music that you made. Ozzy Osbourne made a tremendous mark on earth in regard of music and entertainment and influence and insight, an interesting character. His family is also, they're interesting. There's a few facets that go with that. They're interesting and weird. But thanks for all the music. Thanks for the tunes. It was in one of the Osbourne's podcasts, and Ozzy related that he was working on a new solo album. Had ideas for a new solo album. I think it was very apparent that he was not going to be performing anymore, but he did have ideas and was working on a new album. And so, thanks for all the music. The Villa Park gig took all the energy that Ozzy had, one last effort. I haven't watched all of it. I've seen snippets of it. I haven't seen all the Sabbath set. I haven't seen all of Ozzy's solo set. Thanks, Ozzy. Thanks, Ozzy. Back to what I was saying. The last couple of days have been, Ozzy Osbourne. Ozzy, it's the 25th of July 2025, and Ozzy Osbourne passed away July 22nd, a few days ago, and it's been emotionally intense. It's been It's been I'm still bouncing around emotionally about this, and a couple of days ago we lost Ozzy passed away, and he'd been having health issues for a long time. He'd been battling Parkinson's disease for some time, and in fact, the the Villa Park gig, it took place 2 weeks ago now, about 2 weeks ago now. It might have been a little over 2 weeks ago. The Villa Park gig was 2 weeks ago now, and Ozzy did Ozzy did 2 sets at the Villa Park. He did a Sabbath set and Ozzy solo, and I think each consisted of about 4 songs. And he was for his solo set, he was joined by Zakk Wylde, and I think it was Tommy Clufetus on drums, and I'm not too sure who it was on bass. And of course, for the Sabbath set, Bill Ward was present. Bill Ward was there, which was quite good, quite special. And initially, I wasn't certain what the back to the beginning gig in Birmingham. I didn't actually know how it would go, how it would be, but then I looked it up. I looked it up where it was, and I ended up watching. I watched clips from the day. I actually ended up watching a few clips from the day, and it turned out to be quite emotional. I saw the Guns N' Roses footage. Guns N' Roses is my favourite band, and I saw the Guns N' Roses footage. I saw the Metallica footage. I saw the Slayer footage, and I thought it was the whole energy of the day, and actually it turned out quite well. It actually went very well, and what was I going to say? The last few days has been emotionally harrowing. I didn't really want to see Ozzy sitting down. I didn't really want to see Ozzy sitting down. However, when I did watch the footage, I still haven't seen all the footage, but when I did watch the footage, it was quite emotional, and it was special. It was emotional, and in retrospect, considering what happened afterwards, in retrospect, it must have taken all of Ozzy's energy. It must have taken all of Ozzy's energy, all his willpower, all his energy, all of Ozzy's focus to bring it all together, to bring all of his energy together, to bring it all together for one final bow, for one more performance, to say hello to the fans, and to do what he loved to do. And as it turns out, he summoned all of his energy, everything that he had for one more performance. And look, the thing is, I don't know who I heard. I don't know who I heard first. I don't know who I heard first. If it was Sabbath or if it was Ozzy. It was about 1986. I was about 13 when I first heard Sabbath. It would have been Sabbath that I heard first. I first heard Sabbath first. And it would have been on Rage. And it would have been on Rage, Rage is a TV show. Rage is an all-night music program that we have in Sydney, Australia. I think it's in the rest of Australia as well, but Rage is an all-night TV program that we have in Sydney, Australia. And I would have heard Sabbath first. I would have heard Sabbath on Rage. Would have heard Sabbath first, and also I heard of. My mum used to go down to visit her friend in the avenues at Campsie. And my friend from public school, that we used to go down there, because my mum's friend, her daughter, went to my public school, so we'd go down there to visit, and I'd go into my friend's room, and she would play me Zeppelin and Sabbath and AC/DC and Slayer and Metallica. It's where, in that bedroom was where I heard Rain in Blood on vinyl for the first time, very loud. She played me all sorts of things, Bon Jovi, everything like that. And it's where I even heard Metallica for the first time. But, however, I think that I actually heard Sabbath for the first time on Rage and at that friend's place. And then, but the thing was that there's a metal compilation. It's called Metal Madness, and it came out in about 1985. And one day at school, in the corridor at school, there was a guy who I knew, and he had this record in his hand, and I asked him if I could borrow it. He was good enough to lend it to me for about 2 days. I think he lent it to me for about 2 days. So I took it home, and there was Dio, a song called Dio, Hungry for Heaven. It had Twisted Sister on it. I think it had Warlock on it. It had Accept. And it had this other song on it, Ozzy Osbourne, Bark at the Moon. And up until that point, I know that I'd been hearing Sabbath via Rage, but I hadn't included him properly. And so the name Ozzy Osbourne, and I instantly liked the name. I was like, oh, that's a very interesting name. It's a really cool name. I thought, that's a really cool name. I instantly liked the name. And Bark at the Moon must have been, it was probably the last song on side A. When Bark at the Moon came on, it wasn't like, I don't know if I like this or I really like this. I was instantly sold. I was sold on the spot, instantly sold. And I was like, yes, I'm there, that's it. And the thing was that when I would hear, about that same time or later, when I would hear Sabbath, I'd be like, oh, that voice, I know that voice. And they'd say, yeah, that's Ozzy. And I'd be like, yeah, no, but Bark at the Moon. They'd say, yeah, Ozzy. I'd be like, no, but that's the same voice I've heard with that. And they're like, yeah, Sabbath, Ozzy. And I'm like, it took me so long to figure it out. Yeah, it took me so long to figure it out. And also, but from the thing was that after I heard Bark at the Moon, about a month after I heard that Bark at the Moon song, because I didn't go out and buy the record, for some odd reason I didn't go out and buy the record because I was still trying to figure it all out. About a month later, The Ultimate Sin was released, and Shot in the Dark was all over MTV. Richard Wilkins was playing it all the time, and since Rage played everything, I was getting all of that at once as well. I was seeing it all, and what was I going to say? I got confused. I got mixed up. I got thrown off once again. When I heard Mob Rules, and I was like, that voice is not the same voice. And I heard Heaven and Hell and Born Again. I was like, wait a minute. That's not the same voice. That's totally different. And it took me a long time to figure that out. It took me a long time to work those things out because I liked Mob Rules. I was like, that's different. It took me a long time to figure that out. Oh, it sort of took me a long time to figure that out. And so, but once I heard that Bark at the Moon when I was about 14, that was it. I mean, that was it for me. And also, when No Rest for the Wicked came out, I was all over that, all over it. I remember there was some kid that I was hanging out with at the time who was my age at the time, and I remember I borrowed he had No Rest for the Wicked on cassette, and I said, can I listen to it on his, and I was listening to it on his Walkman for quite a while, and eventually he said, give me my Walkman back, I want my Walkman back. No Rest for the Wicked, I was listening to it constantly, all the time, and yeah, I just remember those days, No Rest for the Wicked. And I remember when No More Tears came out. I'm not overly fond of the No More Tears album. It came out, I tried to get into it. I did appreciate it to an extent. Osmosis. Now I remember with Osmosis, I in fact actually I did do a ranking video a couple of weeks back, just around about at the Villa Park time. I ranked the Ozzy albums. Now in yesteryear, I have to say that in yesteryear, I never ranked the albums. I never compared the albums in yesteryear. I never ranked them. It was because of the YouTube videos that came up that suddenly I started comparing albums. Before that, I would never say, oh, that's better than this, or this is better than that, that's better than this. I never did that. Never did that until these YouTube ranking videos came up. But what I did do a few weeks ago was I did talk about the Ozzy albums, Ozzy solo era, and a whole big reassessment of what I thought was reassessment of them all. And Bark at the Moon, it led me to go. I went back to the Bark at the Moon album because I thought that Bark at the Moon was my sentimental favourite. And then, for some weird reason, I changed my mind. And then I listened to Bark at the Moon again. Bark at the Moon is my sentimental favourite. And it is a great album. It's a really good album. And The Ultimate Sin is a really good album. And then I heard, because when Osmosis first came out, I used to hear that album a lot and I liked it. Then for years and years, like 20 years, 25 years, I didn't hear Osmosis. And went back to Osmosis. I actually went back to Osmosis a few years back. Didn't like it. And I left it alone. Went back to it again. I had been listening to Osmosis a bit. Like 2 weeks ago, I was listening to Osmosis. Osmosis is a very interesting album. I find Osmosis more interesting than No More Tears. I actually prefer Osmosis to No More Tears. Look, you've got Road to Nowhere. There's just some songs on there that I don't need to hear ever again. But Osmosis is a very interesting album. Also, Patient Number 9 is fantastic. Patient Number 9, oh, it's in my top 5 Ozzy albums. Patient Number 9 is fantastic. And the thing was, it took me a long time to get into the Randy Rhoads era because when I discovered Ozzy, it was Bark at the Moon, and then Ultimate Sin came out. So I didn't get the Randy Rhoads era, I didn't get Blizzard of Oz, I didn't get Diary of a Madman, and I didn't come to appreciate Blizzard of Oz or Diary of a Madman until well into the zeros. Actually, and probably until about 2015, I properly went back to them. Yeah, I prefer Blizzard of Oz. I prefer Blizzard. Diary is okay. I prefer, and throughout the years at Heavy Metal Nights in Sydney, they always played. Like we used to have greatest hits Heavy Metal Night, No Life Till Leather back in the day, where they play all the heavy metal all night, and they'd usually play Crazy Train, which I never thought I'd ever have to listen to it again. Never need to listen to it ever again, but as part of Blizzard of Oz, I can handle it. Well, I can handle it. Over the Mountain. They'd always play Over the Mountain or Flying High Again. But Sabbath, yeah, Sabbath. But it would have been Sabbath first for me. On Rage, it would have been Sabbath first, and then Bark of the Moon. But Ozzy, I think he summoned all his energy of what he had, all his willpower, all his focus, and he was able to do that one last gig. And even though he was sitting down, he so desperately wanted to be able to stand up, but even though he was sitting down, it was very heartwarming and very emotional. And it was exactly that. It was heartwarming and emotional, and then 2 weeks, it was a bit over 2 weeks later, Ozzy makes his exit. Ozzy passes away, and the last couple of days have been, it's been an emotion. It has been an emotional couple of days, and I could have made this video the other day. I didn't know if I still wanted to make this video, that I had the energy to make this video, but I'm making this video, and I'm making this video. And Ozzy, the best concert I ever been to was Ozzy Osbourne, Zach Wild, Sydney Entertainment Centre, 1998. It was amazing. It was incredible, and Ozzy was very passionate and sincere. He was very passionate and sincere, and Ozzy comes across as being humble, in his prime, a bit eccentric, and but yeah, Ozzy did. He lived his life. And now he's passed. He's in the astral realm now, which means he could be still on the earthly plane, or he's gone into the astral realms. And you go into the astral realm and you do the life review, and so look, that's I just wanted to say those things about Ozzy. I needed to say those things about Ozzy. Didn't necessarily have the energy to, but I needed to say those things about Ozzy. So, okay.